Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. On this episode, Derek DeYoung returns to the podcast. Derek discusses his new artistic interest, wildlife photography, and shares all the details of his new gallery in Livingston, Montana. I think you're really going to enjoy this one. But before we get to the interview, just a couple of housekeeping items. If you like the podcast, please tell a friend, and please subscribe and leave us a rating and review in the podcatcher of your choice. It really helps us out. And a shout out to our sponsor, Trout Routes. I've known Zach and the team at Trout Routes almost before Zach had a team at Trout Routes. We all know streams are getting crowded, and chances are you're not the only one at your local access point. Get away from the crowds and busy gravel lots by using Trout Routes Pro with over 350,000 access points mapped across 50,000 trout streams and much more. Trout Routes has all the data you need to help you find angling opportunities that others will overlook. Up your game and download the app today. Use code ARTFLY20, ARTFLY20, all one word, for 20% off of your Trout Routes Pro membership at maps.troutroutes.com. Now, on to our interview. Well, Derek, welcome back to the Articulate Fly.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been watching you on Instagram and, found out that you moved and that you're working on your gallery. But before we get to that, it's been about 5 years. I was really kind of shocked when I went back and looked at the archive since we last spoke. And I was kind of curious. I know you're always tinkering and playing with stuff, any new series or media you're playing with or any kind of artistic experiments you want to talk about?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Always something new. I think part of being an artist, most of us are pretty ADD and, we get bored pretty easily doing the same thing every day. So what I've been working on for the last four plus years is becoming a decent wildlife photographer. There's so much more to it than I ever understood. And honestly, at this point, I have so much more respect for the guys that get out there and get the most amazing stuff because, I grew up in the woods, hunting with my dad, fishing on the water constantly. I mean, that's what my whole life was about as a kid. And, the animal part isn't that, I definitely have had to learn a lot. I'm not trying to say I had it all figured out, but, the technical part was what was really hard for me. And Janelle has had to step in and, to even be at all competitive, I've had to invest, I'm probably 60 grand in computers and cameras and lenses. And it's an unbelievable investment, but it's like a rabbit hole. Once you start going down it and you really want the results, it's like, okay, what do I have to do next to get there? And one thing after another. And at this point, it's just a very expensive hobby for me, but we've officially opened up the gallery and it's 50% wildlife photography. So, although, I've been working as a painter since I was 23 and graduated art school, I've gone 50% of photography on this one. And I'm stoked. And it's all hung. The whole show is ready. And I feel like the photography is absolutely on par with the paintings. So I feel really good about what I've come up with.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been watching your Instagram feed, and it seems like also too you really are interested in raptors. But everything that I see in your Instagram feed, it wouldn't surprise me to see it in National Geographic or Audubon, right?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and that's I've got a long way to go before I even step into that arena. But I do have my own perspective, which in painting and in any type of art, perspective is everything. How can you kind of develop what's your perspective? And we've been opening the gallery now for the last several days, like all day long. And the other day, this woman walks in a group of women, and she says, well, I don't like fish. So what else you got? And I'm like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I've just spent the last 20 some years painting fish. So, but my photography is not about fish. So if you like photography, and the gallery is based totally on owls and bears. And you get called, I mean, once you open the gallery, you get called out. That's just part of it. And especially if it's like your namesake gallery. People are like, well, what's up with all the owls and bears? Can you not find any other animals? No, I see other animals, but to get pro level images and really figure it out, you do have to like really focus on something. And for me, that's always been the case. I don't have so much talent that I can, be great at everything. I realize I got to focus on something and really put all my time into it. And I'd be embarrassed to tell you how much time I have into my photography. But, there's taking a photo of a wild animal, and then there's going there for, 18 times over the course of a couple months and finally seeing him catch something, or finally seeing something crazy, a beautiful light. Just getting better and better at capturing that animal. And what's weird too is like, as much as I'm highly aware of, bothering an animal by me going out and photographing it, they like kind of get to a point with you. I mean, I don't go all the time, and I have lots and lots of spots. So I try to alternate so I don't mess anything up. But they get to a point where they like, I'm positive they recognize me, and they're like, oh, it's that guy. He's fine. They don't like fly away. They don't, it's like we all start to recognize each other. And it's just kind of funny. But, the gig painting fish all these years, I always said best job in the world, because research means what? Being on the water, fly fishing, getting to experience all the things that, all of us love. And to change it up and add wildlife photography, I love being in the woods. I always have loved it. It's a very solitary thing for me. And I thank my dad, like every time I'm out there, for teaching me to be comfortable by myself out in the woods, and just understanding, I was freaked out just like anyone, like going out and wandering through the woods when I was a kid, but I did it so much that now I have to do it. And I just love doing it. And wildlife photography brings me out there. And the other thing is, I don't just like hike right through a patch of woods. I'm out there with like a very, intricate, specific goal in mind. So I'm not just like flying through. I'm really observing. And I just find it's not, if I'm looking for an owl or a bear or whatever, I like really notice other things. And I really appreciate nature in a deeper sense than I ever did, since I started doing this photography.
Yeah, that's really neat. And, you're talking about goals, and I know how deliberate you are, kind of, we'll just say in the fish world. What did you bring kind of from a composition and design and kind of, the shots that you wanted to get? What did you bring kind of from your fishing background into your wildlife photography?
Well, good question. And it's, it would, I would have to bring those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of who I am, how I picture things. I do share some of the same goals with my photography, as I do with composing like a painting. It's been funny though with the gallery. Like I was really worried coming up to opening our doors that like, the like biggest fail for me would be that I just did this for myself and I really didn't get, to the quality level with my photography that I was competitive. You know what I mean? It's kind of a midlife endeavor. So been doing the painting for a long time. I'm pretty confident with what I'm doing and what people like. But so far it has been, I don't know, 50-50 as far as what people are interested in, the photography versus the fish paintings. And I've been really, really happy about that. That's made me very, very happy because there are so many, it's been 5 years I've been working on this, and all my friends and family have been just so encouraging to have me launch my photography. And I'm like, I'm not there. Oh, come on. No, I'm not there. Like I'm glad you think that. It makes me very happy, but I personally don't think I am. And until I feel that way, I'm not going to launch my wildlife photography as far as for sale. And I don't know, what do you think? If you're already an established artist and you come out with subpar art in a different genre, that's a little bit, I don't know. I was really hesitant to do that. And so I wanted to make damn sure that I was ready.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting, right? Because it's almost like you're running the race not against the clock, but against yourself, right?
I just would never want someone to come in and say, well, okay, get a load of this guy. He thinks because he's a great painter. I'm not saying that I am, but, if you think I am, thank you. And now he expects us to buy his photography. I want it to be that my photography wins you over, and is good enough to do that. And I think that until I felt like I was there, I just couldn't push forward. So, I mean, it's been kind of a thing. Like there's a lot of people that are in my inner circle are just shaking their head going, when are you going to do this? Because they know how much time and effort and money I've put into it. And I'm like, it'll happen, but I need to develop the whole, portfolio and feel comfortable with it where I can stand behind it. You start off with hard drives full of, bird butts and grizzly bear butts because you go charging in there and they leave and you pull up and take a picture of them as they leave. You know what I mean? And you slowly realize like, okay, that has no value whatsoever. I've got to figure out how to approach this situation where I don't spook them, or how do I know they're there before they spook? And that's been a big part of the challenge. And then, starting to actually photograph them doing their natural thing. Which, I mean, I just don't think that comes naturally, even to people who grew up in the woods, because we're just used to just moving. It's like, and your movement pushes birds. If you just come trompsing through a forest, you're just gonna, if you were seeing it from above, you would just see all the birds just part like a school of minnows with a tarpon swimming through it. That's just how it happens.
Yeah, I don't think people appreciate that, when they see a picture on the wall, like how many hours it took to be in the spot to take the shot to then get the shot.
And what's really kind of interesting about it is that I don't know, I didn't know what I thought about, like how much time it's going to take me to get that shot. But the patience that I've had to develop has been such a gift to me. Like just being able to stop and just stand there for well over an hour waiting for something to happen. I've seen so many amazing things that never make it onto the camera, but those moments are in my head. And I just, I'm an absolute addict. I love being out there. I love sitting for a couple hours to see what I can see. Like if there's an area I've seen animals before. And no, it's really been a gift to my life, first and foremost.
Yeah, that's fantastic too. And I don't do photography anywhere on the scale that you do, but I do have, stuff. And I was kind of curious, the photography nuts are going to want to know kind of like, what are your favorite camera bodies and lenses? You want to share those with folks?
I can, but let me just get this out of the way. I am not a technical guy at all. And, I've kind of asked around and what should I get? And I have ended at a very specific spot that I'd feel comfortable advising people, on how to spend their hard-earned money, because I've wasted a ton of money. And the kit that I would recommend if you're out there and you're wanting to like step it up to a pro level kit would be to go ahead and get the Sony A1. I'm sure they've got like the new A1 or whatever version, but I've got the older one, and I bought it used off a website online. And the 1-400 G Master, that's the one. I bought the 2-6. It's super heavy, way harder to like hike around or be on my bike. I do a lot of photography off my bike. And what I found too is like that extra focal length or extra zoom, as much as you think right away, oh, I need to zoom in, you'd be better off sneaking in on that animal a little bit more. And even if you blow some chances, at 1-400, it's just a little bit better quality lens. And so your results, at the end of the day, once you get the right thing, the right situation, you'll have a million shots. It takes 30 shots a second. So I advise you to go with the shorter zoom and get the 1-400. Before that, I shot Canon, and I always liked it. And some of my friends shoot Nikon. I don't think it could go wrong right now, because everybody's super highly competitive. But that's what I use, is the Sony A1.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because looking at like the photos that you post on Instagram, I mean, to your point, like to be able to see the fibers and the feathers and those like really, like I'm thinking of a picture, I believe it's a barred owl, and it's just phenomenal, just the detail and the feathers.
Well, and two, I will rent lenses. There's lenses that cost $13,000, and trust me, I'd love to just drop in and buy one, but it's just not responsible when I just bought a gallery. So I rent them for a week, and every single day I get up before light and go out for a couple hours and have dinner, and then take off and do the last hour and a half of light and until dark. It's like it's like $70 a day to have that lens, and you got to do it for a week. But it's like the results are amazing. It truly is that much better than the lenses that I own. So that's another thing I'll do.
Interesting. And so, should folks expect to see kind of in the coming years some of your photography, kind of like you've done with your art, you're going to find it in kind of different products and different collaborations, or is it just going to be, standalone, prints and originals in the gallery?
I haven't, thought about that, or that's not something I'm wanting to seek out. I don't know what's going to happen with the photography. Nothing needs to happen for it still to be like an amazing way to spend my time. You know what I mean? And that's the most important thing. And I love to share it with people. And I've, for years, back when I was kind of still developing it, I was so frustrated with my results. I knew the animals, I knew the woods, and I was comfortable with that. I wasn't very good with the cameras and the computer. And that was, you kind of need that to get a good photo. And so, you just got to figure it out, and not bought the wrong lenses, never rented them and borrowed them. And, just very little nuances are what it's all about as far as getting the really crisp, like pro level stuff, especially with flying birds.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a little bit older than you, so like I remember like when I was a kid and had like my first Canon camera, you were shooting film, right? And you take the pictures, and I didn't have a dark room, so and I took slides because it was cheaper, right? And you take the pictures and you didn't know, and it's like it was always amazing. I think it might have been when my second son was born, I got my first digital SLR. And I was just blown away at how quickly you could progress because you just didn't care. You go shoot a card full of stuff and come home and delete 95% of it, right?
It is crazy. Yeah. Just like to trial and error. You can look and see your mistakes quick. But, although I am a little bit younger than you, I minored in photography in art school. And to that point, it was all film in darkroom. It wasn't until I got out of art school and started as a painter that I bought my first digital. And at that point, everyone was like, the fad's going to pass. It's not sticking with us. And I had spent a bunch of money on a Canon film camera because I was like, no way. I can't, like, in my mind at that point, I couldn't fathom how you could digitalize the process of taking a photo because I understood the way the mechanics of the camera and the film worked, and I just couldn't imagine that a digital version could even compete. But I was wrong.
Yeah, we've got a terrific camera shop here in Charlotte that is still that kind of mecca. But yeah, it's at this point, I don't know. I think you'd have to like bark at the moon and rub your tummy 3 times to be able to give them a roll of film to process.
Rips. They will. I think it's come back in a big way, the whole film thing. But like you say, it's when you're used to just having immediate gratification. And the prints that I've got at the gallery, it's one thing to take photos and just, shoot for as good of a photo and just close to perfection as you can on a big Mac screen. But when you actually get a 60-inch print on the wall, that's when you're like, okay, I know, like, the feeling of that photo really comes through. And is it a little over or underexposed, or what's the feeling of the colors? And and now that I've been doing that for a while and printing, when I'm out, on a photo shoot, I'm thinking about, I need more light. I need to get a little bit more light here. Or I'm thinking about the photos that I have printed, and they do make me a little bit better, or they at least make me make a little different choices.
Interesting. And, before we shift gears to the gallery, obviously, you spend a lot of time on the water. Do you have any fishing adventures you want to share with our listeners?
Well, my last fishing adventure was up to the Naknek River Lodge, or River Camp, excuse me. They'll probably shoot me for that. And that was an awesome adventure. Have you been to Alaska?
I have not, but it's on my list. I've got some other places I really want to go. My bucket list trip is Mongolia, but I definitely want to get to Alaska before I shuffle off my mortal coil.
So this was my 4th trip to Alaska. All of them have been fishing trips. And I will say, I think people kind of think about it's not what it was, or, you can say that about anything. And that may be true. I'm not trying to say that the fish counts haven't gone down, but it's still so significantly better than any other place I've ever fished. And I've been around the world. You got to go. You got to go to Alaska. It's like you go in, you get a certain distance from Alaska and you're en route, and every dude has camo and fly rods, and you walk into the airports and people are like, "Oh, where are you going?" "Well, this is my sixth trip, and I want to catch this, and I'm hoping." And I mean, it's just, then you get to Anchorage and everyone's going from there to out to the area they're going to fish, and it's cool. It just is. It's like nothing else, and you got to go and experience it and just be a part of it.
Yeah, and is there any kind of particular species or time of the season that you like to be out there?
I've tried some different parts of the summer and fall, but I've done the Kenai Peninsula and fished the Kenai, all different parts of that for silvers and rainbows and dollies. And then I've done 3 trips to Bristol Bay, 2 to the Sportsman's Lodge on the Kvichak, and then this last one was to the Naknek. And I got my I had a few goals. Do you do that when you travel? Make goals that you try to fulfill?
Yeah, I do. It's part of my charm, as people say.
So my goals, and like, I brought my buddy, who hilariously is also named Derek, and everyone gets a kick out of that. There was no purpose in that; it just happened. But anyway, he's never been to Alaska, but we tied flies for the trip, and talked about it a lot, what we want to do, and he's like all into the swinging flies part, which, as soon as you make up your mind, I can't wait for that. Well, guess what? The swinging flies doesn't really start until the salmon stop dropping eggs, because the eggs are just the easy, best protein source. When we got there, they were still dropping eggs, so the swinging didn't really kick in. So we had, spent a ton of time getting ready and practicing like our spay casting and tying swung fly type of patterns. And, but that's how it works. So then you move on to the next thing. And, I really wanted to get a 30+ inch rainbow. And so that now we're using like, that pegged beads, which, whatever. I'd rather catch it on a swung fly, but this is what's happening. So that's what I'm doing. And, I think by 4th day, we did spend 2 days swinging flies, didn't catch a thing. So now I'm like, put that away. Give me the bead. I'm going to try to get something done. And we caught quite a few smaller or medium-sized rainbows. And about the 4th day, Derek had a 37-inch rainbow to the net. And I'm not Derek, not me, the other Derek. And I mean, it was the biggest rainbow I've ever seen. And it just blew out of the net and snapped the line. And we were all like, unconsolable. And like 2 drifts later, as luck would have it, I hooked a big one, got it up, and it was 32 inches. Nowhere near as big as his, but still my biggest. And so I got that goal. So that was exciting.
Neat. And I know you're partial to the salt as well. Any saltwater adventures?
Well, this will be my first year in 12 years that I'm not going down to the Keys we usually go for 5 months, and sold my saltwater flats boat. After all that time using a 1999 Hughes Redfisher, I had a custom carbon fiber, Kevlar, polling skiff made. And I didn't have the whole move to Montana and gallery thing totally in mind. And about the time I took possession of it, this whole thing started. And so I sold it about a year and a half into owning it. And so we're not going to be down in the Keys, and we're going to take a little time off of the saltwater thing. But my next trip is down to Patagonia. So we did that last winter and absolutely loved it. And so we're going to go back this winter for almost a month.
Yeah, it's a very, very neat place. It's been a while since I've been, but yeah, it's kind of like, you literally just kind of turn the world upside down, and it's like the same latitude as Montana, and the people are great and the food is awesome,
Yep, you got it. You must have went to the same place I did, because that's exactly how it was. And yeah, your fishing skills actually, work there. Whereas when you go, all my buddies from, trouty areas come to the Keys, and it doesn't really transfer that well to that environment. The trout skills don't. But yeah, no, it's fun to go down and just, it's a lot easier fishing there. I'll be honest. You got to work hard, but it's, if you can fly fish for trout in the U.S., you're going to do well there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is being able to, be comfortable dealing with the wind, because it's just as windy down there as it is in Montana.
Oh, yeah, maybe more so. But it can be really windy in the Keys, too. So you do get used to, clicking over, almost onto the shore and really ripping a cast and knowing it's going to land 12 feet into the river.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't done a ton of saltwater fishing. I think the last, it's been probably, so let's see, my youngest son is 16. It was before he was born, and we were down in Andros fishing for bonefish. It's just, well, that's actually not true. I've done some red fishing trips.
I love bonefish. I mean, you don't have to get a more prestigious, permit or tarpon. Bonefish are so much fun, because if you go to the right place, it's a target-rich environment, and you get to actually get pretty good at it.
Yeah, it's a totally different game, and it's kind of interesting too, because I didn't, I learned about kind of the move from Michigan back to Montana, I guess Montana 2.0, just by watching your Instagram feed. But, tell us a little bit about kind of, how that all came about to, leave where you grew up and to go back to Montana and open a gallery.
We moved in 2015 from Montana back to Michigan, and we bought a little cabin right on Lake Michigan. And we got just totally focused on that and learning all the fishing around there. The fishing was great, by the way. Everybody just assumes that it was a huge downgrade in fishing. It wasn't. We had world-class smallmouth and carp, lake trout. I mean, there was so much to get into in Michigan, but right on the shoal, right in front of my house. And as years went by, it did get discovered and, became more busy. But, I mean, for the first 6 years, there was no one there ever. I mean, we caught fish up to 6.5 pound smallmouth on fly right out in front of the house. I mean, there's not that many places you can do that. And I was really lucky that I bought that. I had no idea if the fishing was good in front of that cabin or not. I just got super lucky. But about 3 years after we moved over there, I hadn't gone back to Montana, and I just all of a sudden felt really depressed about that. And my wife's like, well, no problem. Let's go back for a month in the fall. That was a time period that we had a little bit of leeway on our schedule. So we started coming back to Livingston and just renting a furbow and fishing in hanging out for a month. Maybe I'd do 1 or 2 paintings, but mostly I'd just be on the river every day, which was awesome. And just over, we did that for, I don't know, 6 years. And every time I came back to Montana, I just started to make a plan on how to get back here as my permanent location. And that's nothing against Michigan. It's just, I love being in the mountains. It just speaks to my soul. And I love being on the lake, but it's just not quite, I'm just not that guy. And so we had been renting a Verbo right on Main Street in Livingston, and we both really liked it. And we started looking at real estate right on Main Street and started kind of visualizing what would it be like to buy a building and start a gallery. And so, started there. And then we started actually looking and found a place that might work. And so just kind of fell into place.
Very, very neat. Tell us a little bit about just kind of the layout of the space.
Well, it was the old pawn shop, and it was in need of a lot of work. And it was not like a bargain. It's just the market these days. It's like, okay, this is a really awful building. It's going to take a ton of work to get it up to, what we need. And should be a bargain, but wasn't. And we made a few offers at it that reflected where we thought it was worth. And the guy told us to get lost. And it was probably, 4 months later before we actually made another offer and made a deal. And from maybe the next week on, this was all like real early, 2024. Yeah, like January, February, maybe. And they started just ripping stuff out of it like the next day after we closed on it. So, it was all year to, totally tear it down and rebuild it. But it looks absolutely amazing now. It's just got just enough of the original 1890s building left, but everything else is new and just really complimentary to the old school look of it. And I'm stoked. I never would have pictured that it would turn out this good.
Interesting. And so is it gallery and studio space, or is your studio somewhere else?
I've got a studio at home too, but my main studio is in the back of the gallery. It's not like in the gallery space itself.
Got it. And I would imagine did you have to modify the space to get the light that you wanted in there?
Well, we rebuilt the whole front of the building to be just more welcoming and better for a gallery. And then, track lighting everywhere. It's amazing how bright it looks when you put track lighting everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember, have you had a gallery like this before, or is this kind of the first kind of iteration of your gallery life?
I kind of accidentally put a gallery into my house when we lived in Montana. It was maybe about 2,000 square foot new house with an unfinished basement, and I put my studio down there. And people started calling and wanting to come see what work I had available. So I put like one wall, and all I did was like put some gray carpet up and put one track light. And people would buy artwork off. I honestly had no face that would, sell art. But people started buying artwork off it. And the next thing you know, my wife has a guy coming out to put wood floors in and drywall and electric lighting. And I'm like, whoa, this is really happening. We're really like go into town, putting this gallery in. It started as like just one room. And by the time we sold the house, I wonder what the new owner has done with it, because the whole basement was a gallery. So it was not just like open to the public. You had to call and make an appointment. But a lot of times guys would come in groups, and they would just make an appointment when they came into Livingston to, go out to dinner, go to the bar. They'd start off at my gallery for a couple hours because lo and behold, I had a bar in the gallery. And anyway, we had some great times, and we moved some art from there. But it was good for me as far as what I do now with this new gallery, because, I learned about all the hanging systems and just the way the lights needed to be. And so that was a good education.
Yeah. And so, was there any, what was like the biggest challenge or surprise building out this new space?
It was really hard just to be patient, because it took till October 1st. And just the way it worked, we were not allowed to even the general contractor held the key. So it was not even like my property. And so we moved out here, sold a lot of stuff, gave a lot of stuff to family, really tried to whittle down our possessions, but rented a house in Bozeman, and, we didn't have a place to live. Like, we didn't own a place. We were going to, probably the biggest challenge, now that I think of it, was that we were going to build off the back of the building. There's plenty of space behind this building that you could build. We had drawings, an architect, whole thing. And when push came to shove and they submitted the drawings to the township, the quote went up by 80%. And we just didn't have the money to do it. And it was not a big house that we were going to build. But they needed to do any new builds in the commercial district needed, 2-hour firewalls, sprinkler systems, all these things that really made it a lot more expensive. And so we kind of called that off. We looked at a few houses, and we ended up buying a building that was 4 doors down from the gallery. So it was already retrofitted as a home and worked perfect for us. So it all worked out the way it was supposed to. But for a couple minutes there, it was like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to live? Because we really did not want to live outside of town and have to commute in. Starting a gallery, one of the biggest components is just being there and being open.
Yeah, interesting. And so, I know you've opened it. I would imagine that's probably a soft opening. Are you having a grand opening maybe later this month or in November?
Yep. We're doing the ribbon cutting ceremony, which, I say that I have no idea what's actually going to happen there. That's the Chamber of Commerce has come to me and said, this is what's happening. When do you want to do it? And so we're going to do it during the art stroll, or the holiday art stroll, which is November 22nd. And it's a Friday. I'm really looking forward to it, because this really is a culmination of so much planning and work. And it'll be a special day.
Yeah, that's neat. So that'll be, I guess, the Friday before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I also know kind of from our previous conversation that, you're always collaborating with brands. And I was kind of wondering, have you put that on hold, or you have some collaborations that you're working on you want to share with our listeners?
It's not on hold necessarily. It's not the main, thing that I'm shooting to do these days, but I'm always happy to work with other brands and companies to make cool products. I mean, it's funny because, we've worked really hard to develop a good portfolio of products. And maybe people have given me too much credit because they come to me with all these products that they think I need to do, and it's like, I can't just develop, there's an extent in which I can, if a company offers something really close to what I want and it's quality enough, that's something I can do. But I can't just develop like all these random products from scratch. That takes so much time and is such like a, maybe a big company like Patagonia or Squala or Sims, they can do that stuff. But it's just funny what people think, like, yeah, you should make this. Well, if I made it, I'd have to put all my time into marketing it and trying to get it into stores. Like, that would cost so much money to make. But no, we've been setting up our merchandise wall at the gallery. And that's been kind of cool too, because we haven't just taken the, formula of like, this is what a gallery is, and tried to do that. We've grown up in fly shops. We've been doing business with fly shops forever. And I guess we're a little bit more comfortable with that kind of atmosphere than just a straight gallery. So yes, it's a gallery, but it also has, stickers, shirts, glassware. I mean, all the coolest stuff that I make is a part of it. And then, of course, the photography. And then, we offer all the different types of prints that I offer of my artwork, we offer at the gallery. It's not just fine art, and it's not just like only come in here if you are looking to add a original to your collection. Like, I want everybody to come in. I want everyone to feel welcome. And, a guy said to me the other day, he came in and I could tell his energy was a little off and he was like uncomfortable. I could tell. And he was like, oh, I'm just here browsing right now. I'll come back, probably buy something. I just want to, and I said, man, I hope you just can relax and just look at the art and know that I don't expect anything of you. Like, art is to be looked at and enjoyed and thought about. And if there comes a time when you want to buy a painting from me, I would love that. But by no means do I expect that. That's what this gallery is about, is, exposing people to my artwork. And hopefully people can come in and feel comfortable and enjoy it and not feel like that weird pressure that, they're expected to buy something.
Yeah, it's interesting too, right? Because, there's the like, oh, you see it and you buy it and you may never even go to a gallery, but, to have that relationship with you, right? And that connection makes whatever they purchase in the gallery all that more special, right?
Maybe if I have a good connection with them. But I mean, the point is what, there was like a group of teenagers that came in and they were totally stoked, and, maybe they weren't quite prepared to buy their first original painting. I'm just kidding. It. Obviously they were not, but we just gave them some stickers. And I mean, it was still a special thing. And 10 years from now, they're going to be running shit and they'll come buy a painting from me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And so I would imagine you probably, you've got your grand opening in November, but, have you kind of thought about kind of events or kind of programming, particularly, I guess, during kind of high tourist season that you might have in the gallery?
We don't have any major plans, but we'll probably do probably 3 shows a year and actually, do like a show night. And I mean, I'm a huge music lover. I love playing the guitar. I'm not good at it, but I love doing it. And I paint guitars, and I've got guitars in the gallery, and I'd love to have like music at the events. And Playing the guitar in the gallery just sounds amazing because it's kind of a little bit echoey with the brick walls and the wood floors. And so that, definitely music will be a part of it. And yeah, it'll be fun. I'm really stoked. And just like any trip I go on, the number one thing that I think about is not fish, but people. And the people in Montana, I love. They're great people. So that's what draws me back here, number one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite places on the planet. I haven't been back as much maybe in the last 4 years as I like to, but yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of funny. I've got friends who are over in Ennis fishing the Madison, and like I get to tell them the bars and where to go and where to camp and all that kind of stuff, and it's super cool, right? And they send you
for
pictures.
The most part, just stays the same.
Yeah, and they just send you pictures like we're at the gravel bars, like you need to have a cold smoke. And tell people to eat breakfast at the pharmacy because that's the best place, and not to be afraid of eating at the bistro at the bowling alley, all that kind of good stuff.
I just learned a couple of what was it? I don't remember if it was still called the Grizzly, but right by Ennis Lake.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that burned to the ground. I was just there. My buddy said it burned.
Interesting. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I started when I first started going to Montana, gosh, I mean, I'm going to feel really old, like probably close to 20 years ago. I used to stay in town in Bozeman and walk around, and that was kind of a cool thing. And as Bozeman has gotten busier, I moved to West Yellowstone, and then West Yellowstone got so popular that it was impossible to get good lodging at a decent rate. Like I thought it was kind of crazy to have to spend $300 for a hotel room in late September, October.
Yeah.
Right. And so I started staying down in Ennis, and the great thing was I could drive up the valley every morning and miss all the kind of nuttiness getting into the park. And so, that was kind of how my love affair with the fire hole started.
What was your favorite time to fish the fire hole?
I like to fish it probably maybe not quite this late. I mean, the weather's changing, but literally I like to go kind of middle to late September, kind of as West Yellowstone is winding down, right? They're getting ready to kind of close up and take that 2-month break to get snow for the snowmobilers. And to be out there and to fish, when it's snowing, right? And,
man,
dude, it's nuts.
Were there still hatches happening?
Oh, for sure. You had the Miller caddis and the blue wings, right? And so you would go out there, and I like to fish it above the falls. And one of my favorite places to go was if you pulled in at the Nez Perce picnic area, you could walk and then cross the river, and you wouldn't see a soul.
Yeah, there's always those little secret things like that where you can really get away from the crowds, and that's cool. You're not going to find a similar place to fish. It's very, very interesting and just beautiful. And did you ever end up in the middle of a herd of bison?
No, but I did have one time I was actually fishing close to the road, and my back, let's see, if I was swinging, I guess my back was facing upstream, and these, every now and again people would pull over to take your picture, right? But this woman pulled over, and she rolled down her window. She's like, "Are you going to be okay?" And I literally turned around, and there were probably 8 bison crossing the river that I could have literally poked with my fly rod. And I was oblivious because I was just in the zone, swinging soft tackles.
Oh man, but you'll never forget that. I was I was up more towards the north part of the park, and I was fishing by myself. I'd hiked in quite a ways, and I heard something coming through the brush. I'm in the water, so I don't hear it real loud until it was right there. And I turn and look, and a cow elk breaks through the bush, immediately behind me. And I couldn't even see her body, just her neck and head. And she just like kind of sat there and watched me fish. Just kind of going, what are you? She's going to get a drink. But it's so cool to be right in there amongst the animals.
Yeah, and you were talking about kind of that magic hour of light at the end of the day. What I would usually try to do is, save that time and get off the water because, as it's getting cold, it's that cold air is pushing, the bison together and the elk down. And, you just have these amazing things that you can kind of sit and watch, in the last little bit of sunlight and then, drive into West Yellowstone and have dinner and go home.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some magic in Yellowstone Park.
Yeah. And so, you've been pretty busy, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, Derek, if you have any other projects you're working on or contemplating you want to share with our listeners.
Well, I've got several canvases on the easels that I'm working on, and I'm definitely got some really cool fish art that I'm working on, brown trout. But I'm also working on some owl paintings based, from the inspiration from some of the photos that I've taken and just some of the things I've seen that I couldn't photograph. So those are coming along as well.
Very neat. And so if folks want to, follow your adventures, at the easel, I guess now behind the camera, in the field and on the water, where should they go?
Definitely Instagram, Facebook are, I don't know if everyone does that anymore, but that's where I've posted stuff. And that comes through in my, on my homepage and my website too. So if you're not like doing that, you can definitely go to DerekDeYoung.com and you'll see, all the latest things that I've posted.
Very neat. And I'll drop all that stuff in the show notes.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, Derek, I'll let you hop this evening and get another glass of wine. I appreciate you spending some time with me. It's been a lot of fun. We have to get together again and not let it be 5 years next time, right?
That sounds great. I appreciate you reaching out to me too.
Oh, it's been neat. Well, listen, take care.
Yep. Thank you so much. You too.
Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the interview as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Don't forget to check out Trout Routes Pro at maps.troutroutes.com. Use ARTFLY20, ARTFLY20, all one word, to get 20% off of your membership. Tight lines, everybody.